Welcome to the Daily Objective, day 163 of the war in Israel. I am joined by Mark Pellegrino. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Man, how are you?
Good. So we're talking again. This is the second time we've spoken about Jonathan Glazer's speech at the Oscar, where he accepted the Oscar, and then he said the following, and this is part of it. Um, so he said him and his producer, he said. We stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people, whether the victims of October 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza. Of course, this is as despicable as as it sounds and as you would expect. He's blaming Israel for October 7th. He's blaming Israel for what is happening in Gaza, which of course is the choice of Hamas and the people of Gaza um, to do that. So, Mark, your initial thoughts on that, and then we're going to get to this Guardian article that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think more importantly, he's probably playing to the crowd. At the time, many of the people in the crowd had the red hand pins on their lapels and or dresses to demonstrate solidarity with the Palestinian people and the ongoing crisis in Gaza, which anybody with a brain understands is the Palestinians' fault. But Hollywood doesn't quite see it that way, and I think I hate to psychologize about somebody. I'm not as good at psychologizing as Ayn Rand was. She was quite astute at figuring out personality profiles of people. But one gets the sense that going up there and accepting the Academy Award for Best International Film, a film that is indeed very originally done and extremely good and an extremely important film for people to see, one gets the sense that he felt a little too exposed as a Jew, I guess, winning for a movie specifically about Jewish persecution by the Nazis. I feel like he probably felt psychologically naked up there in some way and didn't have the strength to deal with it, knowing that the crowd was essentially hostile to his perspective, and so placated them on some level, you know. So many in Hollywood and the Hollywood adjacent foreign filmmakers are such pussies, man. They have no backbones, they're morally corrupt, and they care more about likes and popularity than they do about the truth.
So a few months ago, I asked you about whether Hollywood is very left wing, as we all know, but whether it's not as anti-Israel as you would expect people who are that far on the left, in part because the entertainment industry has so many Jewish people in it, and part of the uh, response to October 7th has been a massive increase in attacks on Jews, and we have seen actors from Hollywood or just people from the entertainment industry coming out in support of Israel, going to Israel, volunteering. I think Jerry Seinfeld volunteered in, helping early
Jews,
on in the, uh,
Jews. You see
yeah,
Jews, very few Gentiles seem to step out in favor of the Jewish community who's being persecuted right now.
yeah, yeah. And I
John Voight is one possible exception. I saw him do a video for Stand With Us, but in
and
my
John
media,
Voight is generally not on the left, so
not on the left. So correct. You do get a sense that there might be some quote unquote right wingers for their own reasons supporting Israel, but certainly not secular non-Jews.
yeah, and I mean the response from the audience was part of again when I hear this kind of stuff, it scares me that people think this way. But then when you see the response, and we've seen this with things being said in rallies and so on, the fact that the audience would applaud something like this, a statement that Israel is responsible for basically the Jews are behind everything bad that happens. That is the essence of the claim that the occupation is the reason for October 7th and for what is happening in Gaza. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah, right, Nick. It show, the fact that one person would applaud, let alone a fairly substantial portion of that crowd who represents sort of the cream of the crop, the elite of Hollywood right now. So they're the power brokers out there determining who gets hired and who gets fired, who gets jobs. And these people hold these ideas. I mean, it just points even more blatantly to the breakdown of our culture and our capacity to think, because what they're falling prey to, many of them, you have to remember first off that the creative elements of this business are taught not to think. Actors are taught not to think because they're a performance artist, and a boxer can't think while he's throwing punches. He has to automatize responses and then react to the moment. And so actors are reactors in essence, and unfortunately, since they become successful at it, they become reactors in life as well, not deep thinkers. And so the Palestinian Hollywood and the Palestinian propaganda machine works perfectly for people like that who have disengaged their brains, because it shows them terrible pictures, sometimes fake, sometimes actual pictures of dead children or people suffering, sometimes fake, sometimes real. And they don't know that a picture isn't an argument, or a 2 minute or 1 minute 30-second reel isn't an argument. And so their heartstrings are pulled. They feel a strong emotional tug, and they think, well, I'm feeling an emotion. It must be right. I have to go with that. So you have a room full of non-thinkers, essentially. You have a room full of feelers who haven't actually taken the time to peel away the layers of the situation. And that's part of the problem that Israel has, is that their cause is complex. It's complex because it's based on rights and legitimacy and things that take a conceptual understanding of ethics to actually work through. The other side, just works on the dominant ethics of altruism, sort of the natural background noise of guilt about being successful, and the de facto moral status of people who are starving and in unfortunate circumstances. They just play on that. It requires very little effort, very little thinking to use those elements in our society against the decent.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Thank you, Iron Meerkat, for the super chat. I'm not going to read Latin. I'm assuming what it means is Gaza must be destroyed, but if not, let me know and I will uh, put it in the normal chat. Something else Iron Meerkat says in the normal suggests in the regular chat is to um, sew Jonathan Glazer's foreskin back on. Thank you for that mental image, and thank you, Michael Sanders, for the super chat. We'll get to your question. It's off topic, so we'll get to it um, at the end. And thank you for the additional super chat, and we'll get to that as well. So, so the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which we've criticized here in the past, they posted on social media a statement that I think is pretty good one. They said Israel is not hijacking Judaism or the Holocaust by defending itself against genocidal terrorists. Glazer's comments at the Oscars are both factually incorrect and morally reprehensible. They minimize the Shoah, the Holocaust, and excuse terrorism of the most heinous kind. Yeah, very good statement. And then László Nemes, who won the foreign language Oscar in 2015 for the movie Son of Saul, he said the following: "The Zone of Interest is an important movie. It is not made in a usual way. It questions the grammar of cinema. Its director should have stayed silent instead of revealing he has no understanding of history and the forces undoing civilization before or after the Holocaust. Had he embraced the responsibility that comes with a film like that, he would not have resorted to talking points disseminated by propaganda, meant to eradicate at the end all Jewish presence from the earth. Mark, is that your thoughts on that? You actually wanted to talk about this, right?
I think that is a pristine moral statement, and it made me go out and watch Son of Saul last night. I hadn't seen it before. It is an amazing movie. Anybody who wants an education as to the terror and horror that one has to go through, the soul numbing life that those poor inmates in Auschwitz had to endure, should watch that movie because it is also very originally done. It focuses exclusively on one character throughout. You're literally from his POV, and the horrors of Auschwitz are mostly blurred in the background. They occasionally become the focus of the moment, but it even magnifies the horror that this particular inmate experiences, to see them blurred in the background, because you understand what he has to do to his consciousness in order to just get through each moment. It's a great movie, and the director showed a deeper grasp of historical events than Glazer, who look, he just bowed a knee to, whatever Hollywood is feeling. Because I don't know that I can put be this cynical about Glazer, but I can't help but think that he's just thinking about future employment, and his shame is all performative. It's just performative.
Yeah, by the way, there's there's a bit more in this Guardian article of Nemes's statement. So Nemes continued by saying Glazer's speech would stoke anti-Semitic feeling. Quote, "It is especially troubling in an age where we are reaching pre-Holocaust levels of anti-Jewish hatred, this time in a trendy, progressive way." He wrote, "Today, the only form of discrimination not only tolerated but also encouraged is anti-Semitism." I mean, in a sense, I'm glad Glazer made that speech because we got to hear that, which is almost sounds like the kind of stuff that we say on this channel all the time. So yeah, it is a fantastic statement.
And it's good to know there's a filmmaker out there who thinks and feels this way. Because when I saw that speech, and I didn't watch much of the Oscars, but I saw a little bit of that speech. It was given to me by a friend of mine, and it was totally disheartening. The Oscars, as self-absorbed as they are, as self-serving as they are, there's aspects to the Oscars that can be very inspiring to actors who are considering a career and struggling in the field. Some of what the actors can say can be very inspiring, because it takes a lot of work to put a project up. But this was very disheartening to me, and at a time when I'm confronting nothing but anti-Semitism on my social media feeds, I see an epidemic of it. I mean, in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like this, and I know Jewish friends of mine have had to deal with isolated incidents of pretty crazy anti-Semitism, but this is cultural now. This is widespread. And the second largest population of Jews in the world is in New York City, and there's some of the most virulent and despicable displays of anti-Semitism going on in New York City, where people are flooding the streets with Palestinian flags and chanting a genocidal chants. And even some Jews are going along with it. Again, falling into that social contagion, wanting to be liked and and the virtue signaling that is now so rampant. It's like people just want to be part of the in crowd. They want to be in the horde. They don't want to be in the horde's sights. But it does feel like 1930. I mean, it feels like in the stuff I read in Shearer's book on the rise of Hitler, rise and fall in the rise and fall of the Third Reich. I never thought I would see stuff like that in America, and it's happening.
Well, somebody who did think he would see stuff like that in America is Leonard Peikoff, who wrote The Ominous Parallels, which was published over 40 years ago, and basically said that we are on this path. So, but yeah, seeing it,
You know what? To toot the objectivist horn, it's like objectivists are 60 years ahead of the time all the time. Everything Rand talked about in the 1950s is happening as we speak. I feel like Atlas is shrugging when you hear landing gear falling off of planes and engines blowing up. It's like we're coming near that saturation point where the society is in almost full collapse. And there's reasons for it. If you want to know the reasons for it, read fucking Atlas Shrugged, man.
Yeah, I saw some meme. I don't know if it's fully fair, but Boeing has had a lot of trouble recently, and I saw some meme saying that Boeing is trans safe, as it self-identifies as safe. Um,
Shit, I'm going
well,
on a Boeing 737 this Thursday to a con, so let's hope it's flying right.
yeah, that's the thing. America, like almost all domestic flights are on, I think, on Boeing 737s or the vast majority. So yeah, it's scary. That's a different topic. Maybe we'll talk about it. It's interesting. We might talk
Well, it
about it
seems
just
like it's mostly United. Mostly United is having the problems. American Delta's been good, so hopefully Delta stays good.
well. I fly United when I'm in the US, so I was worried on my last trip, but
I
uh,
hate them.
they're great. But anyway, well, other than the risks. All right, let's get to some of the super chats. So Michael has been very generous and has several questions. So we'll try to get to all of them. Michael says, "Why is everyone saying Norman Finkelstein won the debate? The man is clearly psychotic." It depends on what is meant by winning a debate. He's definitely not one if what you mean by that is who's right. But in terms of judging it, the rhetoric. I don't know. Again, I still haven't seen much of it. So
Well, I disagree. I disagree that he won, but what that side did was, I think, dominate mat time, right? I mean, they definitely that's sort of a jujitsu term, they stayed in a position where they took a lot of time to say what they were going to say, and the other side was silent throughout that. And oftentimes when the other side was responding, they were interrupting. And so it can give them an appearance of dominating the argument, but there wasn't a single thing they said that wasn't refuted, and those refutations should ring true to anybody with an ounce of common sense. You don't even have to have a knowledge of history, you just can have an ounce of common sense. They just provide context, and the context completely annihilates the premise.
yeah, and for the part that I saw, when the so-called pro-Israel side was speaking, it was mostly Benny Morris, who I thought was the weaker of the two. But I know we've had some disagreement on that, and we're is it tomorrow that we're doing part two of our review? That I believe it's tomorrow. So we'll continue talking about that. Michael, make sure you tune in. Michael asks, "Is altruism designed to make people spineless?" Um, I don't know. Also, philosophically, that might be, deep philosophy questions are above my pay grade. Mark, you are a graduate of the Objectivist Academic Center. I believe you were student of the year in one of the years, right? Um, so I'm
Yes,
gonna.
I think Shub and I graduated at the tied for number one at the top of the class. Yeah.
Um, so do you wanna take a stab at that?
Is it designed for that? I don't know that was the specific intention of the people who incubated these ideas and birthed them onto the world. They may have had other intentions, but as usual, you can be aiming for a goal, and there's all kinds of ancillary reactions and responses and issues that rise up as a result of that, irrespective of what your intention is. It's an anti-human, set of ethics that divorces value from life and from the necessities of life. So it will make you spineless, since if you divorce value from the necessities of life, you automatically invalidate moving towards values that by its nature will rob you of self-esteem. So
And is
whatever
that
it's
the issue here with Jonathan Glazer?
indeed, look, there it is. Altruism is ripping his spine out. backstage so that he could, make his amoebic speech in front of his masters, quote unquote.
Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, Michael, for the next one, which in which he says, "It seems civilization is dying slowly with a lot of little shocks along the way. COVID lockdowns, Russia, Ukraine, October 7th, etc." I completely agree. Mark.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the dominant voices that are supposed to stand for civilization, the people on the right, the conservatives, originally conservatism, I think, was supposed to conserve classical liberalism in America. So it was unique in its conservatism. Now it has fallen completely away from that. It's rudderless and it's grabbing onto tribalism as a way to try to maintain itself, which is providing no solution to the nihilism on the left. And the only solution that really is there, I think, is a very fringy group of intellectuals and activists called objectivists, who are trying to break through and halt the momentum of this destruction. And I'm hoping we can, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, by the way, Michael's next question relates to that. But yeah, the fact, we've spoken about the fact that conservatives aren't supporting Ukraine is just shocking. That these people are supposedly on the side of civilization, and yet they side with Putin and Russia is just unbelievable. And yeah, a sign of where we're headed. If these are the people who are our hope, I don't know. And of course, the left seems to be okay with siding with Ukraine, but then supports the Palestinians. So yeah, there is no hope from any of mainstream politics. There is no hope. There's hope here, and well, not if you listen to the next question that Michael asks, which is, are there only about 20 to 30,000 honest objectivists in the world, and the rest of humanity are mindless zombies? Well, there I disagree with almost all of it. First of all, I don't think it's 20 to 30,000. That's optimistic. Also, I don't think everybody who self-identifies as objectivist is also honest. And I certainly don't think that the rest of humanity are mindless zombies. You know, a lot of people do a lot of good out there. There is good out there. The problem is the underlying philosophy that people maybe, at least the good people, don't pay attention to. And yeah, that is what moves the culture, and then people are surprised when they see that movement. Mark.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, if everybody were mindless zombies, we wouldn't be alive right now. There would be no civilization. There would be no advancement in technology, which is still moving at a pretty amazing clip. So the fact that there is that means that people are truly thinking. The problem is the things that they don't think about. And one of the things they don't think about so much are ethics and how those ethics work in their lives. And so unfortunately most, and that also translates to politics, by the way. So that means that most people sort of absorb a general sense of what they think may be right. They don't question it too much, so it remains on an unconscious level. And then those unconscious moral sentiments then inform their political ideology. And you have an area in which people truly are out of control, and that's in their own ethics and in their personal ethics and in their politics, where there is nobody at the rudder, there's nobody at the helm. And objectives are trying to change that by getting people tuned into the fact that one, your life matters, and two, and the way that you can make it matter is by taking control of the ship, by being conscious about your moral direction and being conscious about everything that comes into your life. So that's going to be that's I think a generational issue. I mean, you can't solve it right now. You can solve it by putting the right institutions in place and seeding the ground in a way that will produce, future generations of people who embrace reason.
James Valiant says altruism's true motive is manipulation and power, according to Toohey himself, collector of willing sacrifices. If you haven't read The Fountainhead, You don't know who Tui is, but you should read The Fountainhead, and then you will know. And I think he's, in my opinion, the greatest villain in all of fiction, at least the fiction that I have read or seen. Um,
Yeah, I mean, just look at what the Palestinians do, how they manipulate guilt and how they manipulate victimhood and how they manipulate your investment in the fact that you should sacrifice for their plight to advantage. It's all to gain power, power over your action, power over your feelings, power over your sense of who's right and wrong. So he's right. I don't know if it was specifically designed for that, but it certainly is the perfect instrument to acquire and gain power over other people through guilt, unearned
um,
unearned guilt.
and speaking of altruism, we are going to talk about it on, well, not me, because I'm gonna not going to be on, but Mark, you are on the reality show Extra,
I won't be
which,
on because I have to do a taping for something else, which I forgot about. So
all right, then other people will be on, and they will be talking about this. What was it? This weather woman who decided to stop buying new clothes because of climate change. Yeah, the reality show Extra is where we talk about some other stuff in the culture other than Israel, and doesn't really make us much more optimistic, although I think there is more you know, a bit of humor to be seen in the things that people do when it comes to environmentalism.
and the good news is that, some of these people might put themselves in a position to work out Darwin's natural selection. So maybe they'll be selected out of the gene pool and will become stronger as a result.
Maybe, but some of them, the thing is, some of them are very intelligent people, and that is what should be scary. But yeah, all
They're
right.
smart. They're smart, but they haven't thought about certain things very deeply. They just
Yeah.
allow their to carry them away.
Or the worst of them have thought of things very deeply and have come to the conclusions that they have come to. Tomorrow on the Daily Objective, what is the title of that again? The Nazi Roots of Arab Anti-Semitism. So this is going to be an interesting um, you know, look back at the history of how Nazis fled to some Arab countries after World War II. And well, tune in and you'll find out more. And then, of course, the reality show. We will be talking again about the debate on Lex Friedman's show. Mark, thanks. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.
Bye.